My name is Natalie Brennan. I'm 34 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents showed up at my front door in Phoenix, Arizona, unannounced, bags in hand, fury in their eyes. My mother didn't even say hello. She pointed her finger at my chest and said, "How dare you abandon your children, Natalie? We raised you better than this." I stood there, holding a plate of chicken nuggets I just cut into pieces for my 6-year-old. Behind me, my kids were laughing at a cartoon. The house smelled like laundry detergent and baked mac and cheese. My father shook his head like I disgusted him. "Your sister told us everything. She said the kids are living in filth, that you dropped them off and disappeared." None of it was true, not a single word. But what they didn't know was that I had security cameras. I had text messages. I had 2 years of documented lies my sister had been feeding them. And when I sat them down at my kitchen table and showed them the truth, my mother's hands started trembling so hard she couldn't hold her coffee cup. Before I tell you what happened that night, please like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I love connecting with all of you. Now, let me take you back to where this really started. Growing up outside of Pittsburgh, I learned early that my older sister Danielle was the sun our family orbited around. My parents. Dad was a foreman at a steel fabrication plant, steady paycheck, never missed a day. Mom worked part-time at a dental office and spent the rest of her energy managing our household, which mostly meant managing Danielle's life. Danielle was 2 years older, beautiful, sharp-tongued, and endlessly charming when she needed to be. Me? I was the quiet one, the easy one, the one who never caused problems, so I never got attention. When I was 14, I won a regional science fair. My project on water filtration systems got selected for the state competition. I came home buzzing, waving the certificate. Mom glanced at it and said, "That's great, honey. Can you help me hem Danielle's homecoming dress? She needs it by tomorrow." I stayed up until midnight pinning fabric. I told myself it was fine. Science fairs aren't as important as homecoming. At 22, I graduated from nursing school. Top 10% of my class. My parents came to the ceremony but left before the reception. Danielle had a flat tire 40 minutes away, and apparently both of them needed to go rescue her. They spent $300 towing her car and taking her to dinner afterward. I got a text that said, "So proud of you. Talk soon." I told myself it made sense. Danielle needed help. I could celebrate on my own. When I was 28, I asked my parents if they could visit me in Phoenix for a week when my first baby was born. I was alone. My husband James was deployed overseas. I needed someone. "We can't, sweetie. Danielle just started her new interior design business, and she needs Mom here to help with clients." Danielle's business lasted 4 months. My parents gave her $25,000 in startup capital she never paid back. I gave birth with a neighbor driving me to the hospital. I didn't complain. I never complained. But all of that was just the foundation for what came next. 2 years ago, my marriage ended. James came back from deployment different, distant, angry, drinking. We tried counseling for 8 months. It didn't work. The divorce was finalized quietly. Joint custody every other week. I kept the house. He moved to an apartment 12 miles away. It was the hardest period of my life. I was working night shifts at the hospital, raising 2 kids, Lily, who was 4, and Owen, who was 2, and trying to hold everything together on $62,000 a year with a $1,400 mortgage. I called my mom. I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask her to move in. I just said, "Mom, I'm struggling. Could you and Dad come for a week? Just to help me get back on my feet?" Silence. Then, "Natalie, we'd love to, but Danielle is going through something too. She and Marcus are having issues and she needs us here." "Mom, I'm going through a divorce. I have 2 toddlers and I'm working nights, and Danielle is dealing with a difficult marriage. We can't choose between our daughters." But they had chosen. They always chose. I hung up, sat on my bathroom floor after the kids were asleep. The tiles were cold. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and Owen's sound machine playing ocean waves down the hall. I stared at the ceiling for an hour. Something cracked inside me that night. Not dramatic, not loud. Just a quiet shift, like a bone finally setting after being broken for years. I thought about every time I'd rearranged my life for people who wouldn't rearrange a weekend for me. For 20 years, I had bent myself into whatever shape my family needed. I had given up celebrations, milestones, time, money, sleep, and gotten nothing in return except the assumption that I'd always be fine. I pulled up my phone and started counting. Every dollar I'd sent home, every trip I'd funded for my parents to visit Danielle in Charlotte, every loan that was never repaid. The spreadsheet I built that night totaled $38,000 over 12 years. That wasn't counting the emotional cost, the missed visits, the forgotten birthdays, the calls that were always about Danielle. From that bathroom floor, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to explain or justify my worth to people who should have already known it. I was going to build a life so solid that their absence wouldn't leave a crack. I blocked the family group chat, stopped initiating calls, stopped sending photos of the kids. If they wanted to be in my life, they'd have to show up. They didn't. What happened next changed everything, and it started with a woman named Gloria. Gloria Hernandez was a charge nurse on my unit, 15 years older than me, built like a firecracker, and the kind of woman who could read a room faster than a monitor reads a heart rhythm. She'd been watching me for months. One night during a break, she sat down across from me in the break room and said, "Natalie, I've been doing this job for 22 years. I know what burnout looks like, and I know what heartbreak looks like. You've got both. So talk to me." I don't know why, but I told her everything. The family, the divorce, the loneliness, the feeling that no matter how hard I worked, I was invisible. Gloria listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what your problem is? You're the most competent person in every room you walk into, and you've spent your whole life apologizing for it. Stop apologizing. Start leveraging." Gloria had connections. She'd spent 2 decades building relationships across Phoenix's healthcare system. She told me about a nurse practitioner program at Arizona State, a bridge program for experienced RNs, tuition assistance through the hospital, a schedule that could work around my kids. "You could double your salary in 18 months, she said. "You've got the grades, the hours, the clinical experience. You just never had someone tell you to go for it." She was right. No one ever had. I applied that week, got accepted within a month, started classes while working nights, raising my kids, and rebuilding my life from the ground up. Over the next 18 months, everything changed. Month 1. I started the NP Bridge program, 14 credit hours on top of full-time work. I slept 4 hours a night and survived on coffee and sheer determination. Some nights I'd study pharmacology flashcards while Lily slept on my lap and Owen babbled in his playpen. It was brutal, but it was mine. Month 3. My first exam scores came back, 94%. My professor pulled me aside and said, "You have clinical instincts most students take years to develop." I almost cried right there in the hallway. Month 6. I'd completed my first clinical rotation with a 3.94 GPA. Gloria connected me with a family practice clinic run by a doctor named Amara Singh, who took one look at my patient notes and offered me a paid practicum on the spot. My income went from $62,000 to $74,000 with the practicum stipend. Month 12. I passed my board certification on the first attempt. Only 68% of candidates pass on their first try. I did it while raising 2 children alone. The clinic offered me a full-time nurse practitioner position starting at $112,000 a year. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for 10 minutes. Not sad tears, proud ones. Month 18. I'd paid off $14,000 in credit card debt, started college funds for both kids with $5,000 in each, and put a down payment on a bigger house in a better school district. A 3-bedroom with a backyard and a lemon tree that Lily immediately claimed as her tree. I was building something real, and my family had no idea. During this entire time, my parents called maybe 5 times. Short calls, surface level. "How are the kids?" "Fine." "How's work?" "Fine." They never visited, never asked to FaceTime with Lily and Owen, never sent birthday cards. But Danielle Danielle was busy. See, what I didn't know was that my sister had been telling my parents a completely different story about my life. It started small. She told them I was struggling and overwhelmed. Then it escalated. She told them I'd been leaving the kids with strangers, that my house was a mess, that I was neglecting Lily and Owen. Why? Because Danielle needed to be the responsible one, the good daughter. If I was falling apart, she looked better by comparison. She'd been doing it our whole lives. I just never had proof. Until now. 3 months ago, my cousin Rachel, Danielle's closest friend, called me out of the blue. Nat, I need to tell you something. Danielle has been telling your parents that you abandoned your kids. She said you left them with James full-time and moved in with some guy. She said your house got condemned by the city. My blood went cold. What? Your parents are planning to fly out there. They want to file for emergency custody of Lily and Owen. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. My sister had fabricated an entire narrative, and my parents believed every word without ever calling me to verify. I didn't panic. The old Natalie would have panicked. The old Natalie would have called crying, begging them to listen. Instead, I did what Gloria taught me to do. I documented everything. I pulled 2 years of text messages between me and Danielle, the ones where she never once asked about the kids. I gathered school records showing perfect attendance, pediatrician records showing every wellness visit completed on time, photos time-stamped from every holiday, every school play, every Saturday morning pancake breakfast. I printed my pay stubs showing my $112,000 salary. I downloaded footage from my home security cameras showing my kids playing in the backyard, eating dinner, reading bedtime stories. I built a folder so complete it could have been submitted in court. Then I waited. 3 weeks ago, they arrived. My parents, standing on my porch in Phoenix, looking at me like I was a criminal. Mom's face was twisted with righteous anger. Dad looked like he hadn't slept. They had a printed-out email from Danielle, pages long, detailing my supposed neglect. "We're here to take the children," Mom said, "until you get your life together." I stepped aside. "Come in." They walked into my home, the home they'd never visited. The 3-bedroom house with the backyard and the lemon tree. Lily's artwork on the refrigerator. Owen's toy trucks lined up neatly by the couch. A pot roast in the slow cooker. A chore chart on the wall. A house that smelled like cinnamon and clean laundry. Mom stopped in the living room, looked around. Her expression flickered. "Sit down," I said. "Both of you." They sat at my kitchen table. I placed a glass of water in front of each of them. Then I set down the folder. "Before you say another word," I said calmly, "I need you to look at this." I opened the folder. "Danielle told you I abandoned my kids. Here are Lily's school attendance records, perfect. Not one absence in 2 years. Here are Owen's daycare reports. Enthusiastic, well-adjusted, loved by staff. Here are pediatrician records. Every vaccine, every checkup, on schedule." I flipped the page. "Danielle told you my house was condemned. Here's my mortgage statement. $285,000 home, current on every payment. Here's my property tax record. Here's the home inspection from when I bought it 18 months ago, passed with flying colors." Mom's face was losing color. Dad hadn't moved. "Danielle told you I was unemployed and spiraling. Here's my pay stub from last month. I'm a board-certified nurse practitioner making $112,000 a year. I earned that degree while working full-time nights and raising 2 children alone. While you were in Charlotte helping Danielle pick out throw pillows." I pulled out my phone and opened the security camera footage. Lily and Owen in the backyard, chasing each other with the hose. Me reading to them on the couch. The 3 of us baking cookies on a Sunday afternoon. "Does this look like neglect to you?" Mom's hands were shaking. "Danielle said—" "Danielle lied." I kept my voice level. "She's been lying to you for 2 years. She told you I was failing because it made her look better. And you believed her. Without calling me, without visiting, without asking a single question." Dad finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. "We didn't know." "You didn't want to know. You took her word because you've always taken her word. You flew across the country to take my children based on nothing but Danielle's say-so. You didn't call me once to check. I pulled out the text messages. Here's every conversation between me and Danielle in the past 2 years. Notice anything? She never once asks about Lily or Owen. Never says their names, not once. But she had enough concern to tell you I was neglecting them? I set down Danielle's email, the one they'd brought with them, next to the evidence folder. Her story, my proof. You tell me which one holds up. The room was silent for a long time. Mom started crying. Not the performative tears I'd seen at family dinners, real ones. Ugly, shaking, full-body crying. She kept saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Dad stared at the table. His jaw worked like he was trying to speak but couldn't find the words. Finally, he said, "We should have called you." "Yes," I said. "You should have." That night, my parents stayed for dinner. They met Lily properly for the first time in over a year. She showed them her lemon tree and her drawings and her collection of painted rocks she kept in a shoebox under her bed. Owen climbed into my dad's lap and fell asleep there, clutching a plastic dinosaur in his fist. My mother sat in my kitchen and watched me move through my home, the home I'd built, the life I'd created, the children I'd raised beautifully without a single moment of help from her. And I saw something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Shame. Real, gut-level shame. My parents stayed for 4 days. On the second day, my father called Danielle on speakerphone while we sat in the living room. He asked her one question. Did Natalie really abandon her kids? Danielle stumbled, made excuses, said she'd heard things from James and was just worried and trying to protect the kids. Dad said, "We're sitting in her house, Danielle, her beautiful house, with her happy, healthy children. She's a nurse practitioner now, did you know that?" Silence. "She makes more money than you and Marcus combined. Did you know that either?" More silence. "You lied to us. You lied, and we almost destroyed our relationship with our daughter and our grandchildren because of it." Danielle hung up. The weeks since have been complicated. My parents and I are talking, really talking, for the first time in my life. It's not easy. There are 34 years of patterns to undo. They've apologized multiple times, and I believe they mean it. But apologies don't erase the fact that they flew across the country ready to take my children without ever hearing my side. Danielle hasn't spoken to me. She hasn't spoken to my parents either, from what I hear. I'm told she's furious. I'm told she feels betrayed. The irony is almost too much. I've forgiven my parents, not because they've earned it yet, but because holding on to that anger was costing the energy I'd rather spend on my kids. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing where to put your power. I put mine into Lily's bedtime stories and Owen's laugh, and the career I built from nothing. Danielle, I haven't forgiven yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. That's my decision to make on my own timeline. Today, I wake up at 6 in a house I own. I drive my kids to school in a car I paid for. I go to a job where I help people, where I'm respected, where my competence is valued. I come home to a life that I built with my own hands when no one was watching. Gloria still texts me every week. She says, "How's my favorite success story?" I tell her I couldn't have done it without her. She tells me I always could have. I just needed someone to say so. If you're watching this, and you're the one in your family who gives everything and gets nothing back, the reliable one, the invisible one, the one they call when they need something but forget when they don't, I want you to hear this. You are not invisible because you lack worth. You're invisible because they've gotten comfortable not looking. Stop waiting to be seen. Start building something so bright they can't look away. And if they still choose not to see you, that tells you everything you need to know about them, and nothing about you. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story resonated, please like and subscribe. Have you ever had a family member lie about you to turn others against you? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember, your truth doesn't need their approval. It just needs your voice.